Welcome to Fandom Schmandom, the fandom podcast that covers everything you love and more. I'm Sam Williams.
And I'm Sierra Obermark. In today's episode, we will be weekly wallowing about Stranger Things, Season 2, Episodes 5 through 8.
And without further ado, we will, as Roger Smith says, dive on in. So get up to 88, because it's time to travel back to our story recap. Episode 5, Things Are Happening! Hopper is trapped in the devious vines of the Upside Down. Will can see him in the now memories. And who is that to the rescue? Da-da-da-da! It's Bob the Brain. Bob, as we call him, realizes that all of Will's drawings create a map of Hawkins. And it's Will, Mike, Joyce, and Bob on the way to find Hopper. Meanwhile, Dustin is in a panic, trying to hide Dart and his late-night snack. R.I.P. Muse! Cue the Obermark.
Dun dun dun.
From his mother. Code Red! But only Lucas's annoying little sister is there to hear him, since Lucas is telling the entire story of last year and last season to Max, who, understandably, does not believe him. Lucas' convictions lead her to question if what he says is real as she speeds away from the arcade in her jerk racist nut brother's car. Nancy and Jonathan have arrived at their contact's home, ready to blow this whole thing wide open. Oh, and look who it is. Murray! They tell him everything, but Murray spots something the kids don't. No regular person in their right mind is going to want to believe this insanity. So, they concoct some vodka sodas and a plan to water down the story just enough that a layman would hold those responsible for Barbara's death, responsible. Where is 11, aka Jane, during all this time? She has tracked down her mother and realizes that Terry is trying to communicate. Breathe. That means going into labor. Sunflower. It's on the side of the hospital bed. 3 to the right, 4 to the left, unlocking a safe where the gun sits. Rainbow. It's painted on the side of the door where their kids are being kept. 450, the level the electric shock was turned up to. Wow, Papa is a bad, bad man. Rescue mission is successful as Joyce and Bob drop down into the vines and follow Hoop's trail, freeing him just as the lab people in coats arrive. Cue, dun 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 dun, we can't afford it, Indiana Jones reference as Hoop snatches his hoot, aka Hopper gets his hat back. The lab people start to burn the vines and cause Will to seize and scream with pain.
Episode 6, Screaming, all the screaming. Hopper is being decontaminated and Will is burning from the inside. Dustin and Steve have teamed up in an excellent buddy comedy to deal with Dart, who has shed and burrowed out of the basement. More screams! Joyce calls out doctors for incompetence, and Murray calls out Nancy and Jonathan for avoiding their feelings for each other. Lucas is meeting up with Dustin and Steve, who are of course discussing girls, to go find baby Demogorgon, but he grabs Max along the way. The psych shows Hopper the spreading darkness, and Bob marvels at his new title. Bob Newby, superhero. Bob. We learn that Will is infected by a virus, one that is communicating through the hosts. But more importantly, we learn that the key to Steve's hair is Farrah Fawcett spray.
What?
Hopper lays his heart out over the radio, but Elle isn't around to hear it. Psych, aka Sam, turns out to not be the worst, planning to keep Will safe instead of killing him through the burn. Will shows the lab soldiers where the shadow monster doesn't want anyone to look, while Steve and company set a trap for Dart in the old junkyard. Steve baits Dart with himself, but oh no, clever girl, there are 2 Demogorgons now. Just when they have Steve and the kids cornered, they are called away to the graveyard where Hop was found. The fog rolls in on the soldiers, the screeches from the Demogorgons echoing, but then the haunting words of Will. I'm sorry. He made me do it. I told you. They upset him. They shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have upset him. It's too late. You should go now. They're almost here.
But never fear, we pick up immediately back with Will and don't at all splash up to Chicago, where
Nope.
maybe one of the most criticized parts of Stranger Things occur, which is episode 7 of season 2. Wonder what 11 was up to the whole last episode? Not really. Well, here we go. Jane is at her mother's house and tells her aunt all about what she saw, concluding that her mom is telling her to find the other girl from the Rainbow Room. Good thing the aunt kept all her sister's files, including a whole folder of missing kids that Terry had suspected were like Jane. There she is, the girl, and it's not contrived at all. Now, if you have forgotten, we saw this girl back at the beginning of episode 1. Callie, aka 8. 11, aka Janie, tries to find her using the abnormal methods, but is unable. She falls asleep and instead dreams of where to find her. She wakes to hear her aunt on the phone talking to Hop's assistant and learns that Hop and Joyce were here.
I told you that she would be mad. I told you.
You did tell me. I didn't listen. Stealing her aunt's money, she makes her way to Chi-Town and finds Callie, who is part of a sort of Joker misfits street gang who kill those who caused their misfortune in life. Turns out, Elle did hear Hop's message, but this does nothing to help with what comes next. Callie starts to train 11 to harness her anger in order to tap into the greater part of her power. Good, 11. Good. 11 moves a whole dang train by tapping into all the worst things that happened to her. Sorry, Mike and Hop, you made the list. Now, to the rest of the badmen. After getting a makeover reminiscent of Manson, maybe a little more Marilyn than Charles, the crew heads to the home of a man who electrocuted Terry. Unfortunately, during the break-in, they discover he has 2 girls, and 11 decides to show mercy and forces Callie to do the same, throwing her gun out the window as the coppers arrive. A revelation, though. Papa, Dr. Brenner, that is, isn't dead, as we previously thought. Back at the hideout, Callie gives Jane a choice to go back to Hop or stay and fight. Memories flood Elle of Hop and Mike and all she's left behind. She sees the trap Will and the Shadow Monster laid for the soldiers, but just then, the cops find them. Callie uses her powers to help them get away, but 11 wants to save her people. Callie and Jane are crushed by this choice, but Jane knows what she has to do. Go home.
Episode 8. The Demogorgons have arrived. The lab is under attack, and the group puts Will out, knocks him out. He's out. Mike, having noticed that as the spy, if Will knows where they are, then so does the Shadow Monster. Good job, Mike. Bob, Joyce, Hop, Will, and Mike are trapped in the lab. OMG, Max and Billy actually have parents. Really horrible ones. Billy's dad is a real piece of work, and it's easier to see why Billy is the way he is. It's not excusable, but ew. Steve and Co. realize that Dart is headed back to the lab where Bob has turned full superhero. He is headed to the basement to reset the breakers of the lab so everyone else can get out. Nancy and Jonathan arrive just in time to meet up with Steve and the kids. Everyone is now so close and yet so far in classic penultimate episode fashion. Sam guides Bob through the building in one of the most anxiety-laden scenes in the show. It is very reminiscent of Jurassic Park trying to escape the velociraptors.
Yeah.
Cue me yelling at my TV, "Don't you dare kill Bob!" How dare they? They killed Bob. This is why we can't have nice things.
Cue the Obermark.
Dun dun dun.
R.I.P. Bob.
Back at Joyce's, everyone mourns Bob, and Mike rallies everyone to help Bob not to have died in vain. They will find the Shadow Monster, Mind Flayer, whatever we are calling it now, and kill it, thereby killing everything it controls through the hive mind. Only problem, the only way to do this is by talking to Will, who is still being controlled by said Mind Flayer. Luckily, Will knows Morse code and taps his hand while the Mind Flayer is distracted by the rest. They get the message. Close gate. But then the phone rings and they have been found. Demodogs closing in, they prepare for a fight. Suddenly, a Demodog screams, flies through the window, dead. How? Elle enters in all of her BA glory. Mike and Elle lock teary eyes.
Ugh, cue my asphyxiation with how much I hate Mike. Great kid, you got your girlfriend back. He does. He actually does. We'll talk about him, I promise.
Find your donut holes. It's time for our Knives Out category, where we sleuth out which 3 storylines are the most vital to pay attention to. Number 1, the Dart storyline. Number 2, Nancy and Jonathan. Number 3, Will and Mike.
The Dart storyline. Okay, first of all, Muse, poor Muse, and also stupid Dustin. We do not blame Dart. We don't blame Dart. But we do blame Dustin, who lies through his teeth to get his mom both away from Dart and also to get out of there so that he can completely work with Dart the dog. He now sees that Dart is like actually demo something, but he can't reach the gang for help. And so is that Steve's Bat soundtrack I'm hearing? Because Dustin and Steve, in what is absolutely my favorite pairing in the entire series, finally comes to life.
Yes.
Steve, fascinatingly, doesn't really buy into the whole what Dart is until Dustin's like, hey, he ate my cat. And then Steve's like, okay. And then we get classic Steve in his jacket, plus his bat and nails, and those little yellow rubber gloves, and I have a pop of him just like that, and it's amazing. Dart, we find out, has molted again, and dug a tunnel out of Lucas's bunker. Dustin finally gets Max and Lucas to join him, but not before Steve and Dustin dispense a ton of meat with their yellow kitchen gloves, and Dustin gets much sage advice from Steve on romance. Fabergé organic shampoo and conditioner, plus, as we said, a Farrah Fawcett hairspray. Not when it's dry, not when it's wet, when it's damp. When it's damp.
When it's damp.
Max, Lucas, Steve, and Dustin set a trap in the old vehicle scrap hill yard thingy. Don't know why it's at the top of a hill. Seems ludicrous. Max's disbelief is dissuaded, and Steve takes one demagogue, 2 demagogues, wait, that's 3. And shoot, that is a lot. So, mid-fight, with these demidogs, they all run. And as Steve says, they're going somewhere. And much to Max's chagrin, they follow them to Hawkins' lab. What is important about this storyline, Sierra?
So I think the first thing that's important is Dustin and Steve.
Yeah.
There. Dustin has been kind of ditched by all the rest of his friends throughout this season, and so he really needs someone to rely on and to be there for him. And so I think that that's a really key thing here. And so I think that that's kind of the main point.
Yeah.
It also brings in just the development of the darts into Demodogs, into Demogorgon.
Yeah.
And that everything is connected no matter how far away they are. They can all still be called and drawn by the Mind Flayer.
Yeah.
So I think that those are kind of the most important factors.
Elements, yeah.
Plus this junkyard, which will come back up.
And it's a great...
Has been there, will
be there, is always a part of the seasons. It's interesting here, because we get a little bit of fandom information in terms of, like, the Pokemon evolutions of Demowhatsits. Because, little tiny toad turns into a little bigger toad, turns into a dog rat thing. Then it's a full dog, and then we never get to see them turn fully into bears, which I suppose is a good thing, because boy, was just one hard to kill.
Yes.
And also, Steve and Dustin's relationship, I feel like, is one of the main charm points of the season. It keeps everything light and frothy in what is normally a kind of a very bitter coffee or very bitter tea. And this is sort of the whipped milk that you get to pour in to help make everything a little bit more swallowable, which is not a word, but is something that I've said. So,
sounds like a word to me.
And also,
this is Siren. I approve this word.
But also, I get to blame Mike for another thing.
Yay!
So Lucas, I excuse for not being in contact because he's actually taken upon himself to include somebody that has acted awesome, been interested, and shown herself very smart. He's in the midst of getting Max involved. Because, you know what, she is involved, and it's not fair of them to keep her out of the party, just because Mike's being a little gremlin about this whole thing.
Mike?
But then also, it's not Will's fault, because he took Bob's advice and sucked in a monster into his soul. So, he's excused as well. So, of all the friends that are to blame, the only one left is Mike, who's just, like, standing by Will and being like, I have perfect idea after perfect idea. And that's the only thing that I ever do. And I just talk and I get mad and I get pissy. And so Mike's the one who doesn't think about even contacting Dustin because he kind of hates Dustin and Lucas because of Max. So it's Mike's bitterness that we get Steve and Dustin, which is a good thing, but I still blame him. I don't give him credit. I just blame him.
Blame him for the circumstances that led to this great circumstance.
There's great circumstances. It's great. Anyways, I think we covered everything on that storyline. So then we've got Nancy and Jonathan's storyline.
Yes. Single or double? Sharing a room, are we? They bond over the world maybe almost ending and having a scar from the stupid hand cutting in season 1. Seriously, why do we insist on cutting the palm? I hate it. Interestingly, Nancy asks Jonathan what happened to us because she thinks that Jonathan kind of disappeared on her. Okay.
Wild.
We're with Steve? Sure. I mean...
What does she even mean when she says, I waited? And he's like, yeah, only for like a month. She waited? Like...
Yeah, waited for what?
Waited for what? To kiss Steve again? To go to third base with Steve again? To go even farther with Steve again? Like, it's not like they waited for marriage. Like,
no, it weirdly like almost made me think that like they were alluding to some past like before, like that we didn't even see, like something at the beginning of high school or something that they'd like maybe tried to date and then she got a little bit more popular or something, but she's not really, but she's at least more popular than him.
My belief on that is that they are alluding to something that got cut from the show. Like a scene that, a previous scene that had already gotten cut from the show, whether it was season 1 or season 2, and probably season 2 or else they wouldn't have written this line. But, in fact, it makes no sense for it to have been in season 1, so sorry, listeners. But that ending is so powerful of her then turning over and saying, I want the lights off, that they couldn't really cut that section. And it kind of still makes sense, even though you and I are like, I'm immediately taken out of that scene by that line.
Yeah.
But I love that scene still.
Yeah, it's so great. Then we get to Murray! Woohoo! He's such a fun character. He thinks he's trying to solve this mystery. He's really giving it a good effort. However, Nancy and Jonathan hop in there going, you have some things that you're missing, your timeline's wrong. Here, we'll just tell you the entire story. So Murray believes the entire story. Good on him for immediately jumping on board with the lunacy. To be fair, he wasn't that far off to begin with. He does believe that they need to water down the story for the general public, which is fair. He then gets Jonathan and Nancy drunk/drinking, which totally in no way plays a part of the night's events. That's fine. After the night's events, they return to the buyer's house to find it filled with the Vine drawings. Jonathan finds a Polaroid cartridge, which he doesn't shoot, and realizes that someone else has already been to the house and has taken photos of all the drawings. That wasn't him or his family. And then they go to Hawkins' lab. They go, where they meet up with Steve, his bat, Dustin, Max, Lucas, and Woeful Optimism.
Yes. So what are we finding important about this storyline? I just said that the Steve and Dustin part are where the charm is, and with Murray, it's where the comedy is. Because
it really is.
He's so funny. I mean, just from the opening of where he identifies them via the camera, and then he's like,
up.
He's like,
up on your right.
Up on your right. No, don't look at that. That's a, fire monitor. Look at the actual camera, you idiots. I love it. And then he's in there and he's like, all right, come on in and I'm gonna figure out what happened to your friend Barb. Sorry, I can't even remember her name. R.I.P. Barb. and then they're like, they hold my beer him. Like, Nancy's just like, oh, hold this. I'm going to show you what's really up, which I just loved. But I think also too that they bring a little bit more of the real life into the situation. Hopper did a lot of that in season 1, and now we've got Nancy and Jonathan sort of actually doing the okay, this is getting sent out to the Chicago Sun, to the Chicago Tribune, to
exactly.
All of these other major newspapers and stuff. And I find that really, really good and interesting. And of course, then they hook up with everybody else. But we also get major romance. There's no Elle and Mike, and we've got we have some tension between Hopper and Joyce, but it's mainly romance established from Bob and Joyce, and now we've got this wonderful tension of Jonathan, Nancy, and the pullout.
I agree. I think they bring this kind of trio or duo, bring the romance and the comedy to the situation, and also I think from a story standpoint, the importance is being that they're going to expose Hawkins' lab in whatever way that they can. Because general public is not going to believe this story. This is absolute lunacy. And if you don't see it with your own eyes, you're never going to believe it. And so it's just going to get written off. And that's, I'm sure, how Hawkins' lab and other places like it have been able to get away with so many things, is it's all just written off as crazy talk. And so they're going to put it in a way that everybody will believe because they're acting on pre-existing fears and whatnot. So I think it's also a lot of the kind of high level intelligence comes out in these characters because they're really thinking and have time to think and plan and formulate, whereas so many of the other storylines are just acting on impulse.
Yeah, that's such a phenomenal point. Absolutely. So true.
And speaking of acting on impulse, we have the Will and Mike of it all.
Which, you would think Will would have more willpower, and that's a terrible pun, but it's also very true. So, thanks to Mike's like, spying. That's a good thing to do. Do that, Will. All right, thanks, Mike. Great. Awesome. So, Mike's got this idea that because the monster is inside Will, that they're going to be able to use Will as a spy to inside the mind flare, which is true and also immediately pays off because that's the only way that they save Hopper. Since Will can see into the vines, which, as we've noted, there's Indiana Jones references, and then there's this Indiana Jones reference, which is Hopper is just straight up dressed like him.
Yes, exactly. Torch and all.
Torch and all. But in order to find Hopper, they need Bob the Brain, who is really, really, really good at solving things. And he gets them to the upside-down vine hole thing where Hopper is encased in plant matter. But when the plants are burned, the Will goes crazy. Well, Will goes to the hospital, and it's not great, and neither is Hopper. The Upside Down has been growing into Hawkins, creating a labyrinth of tunnels. Right? And also, they managed to poison Hopper, who now needs to get, sort of nuclear scrubbed, like when you have too much radiation kind of thing. So there's these labyrinth of tunnels, and they'd like to burn at those scientists, but that might kill Will. And then no one is really sure what to do after Will wakes up and becomes, as I call him, Creepy Will. So Creepy Will wakes up in the hospital remembering very little, which will always be effective for me.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. He's infected with the virus, according to Dr. Sam, and if you burn any of the Upside Down, it burns Will. The white-cloaked men think it might be time to just kill Will with the burn. But as they deliberate, Will thinks he knows how to destroy the Mind Flayer. But you see, the Mind Flayer uses Will to lure the burners to Hopper's graveyard, and then to have all the demo dogs eat the burners, and then come for the rest of them in Hawkins' lab. Is this the best sequence the show has to offer? Okay, number one, everyone is dead. The lab is overrun. What wouldn't I love to play this as a video game, first of all? And then the entire lab is on lockdown because the power goes off. Dr. Sam knows the process of how to get out, but only Bob knows the computer language BASIC, and so he can program the computers to get them out. Bob sneaks through the halls, opens the exit, and leaves his gun behind. Dr. Sam then stays behind and guides Bob through a rather crowded hall of demo dogs. In an excruciatingly slow and painstaking series of events, Bob runs for it and makes it, we think. And even when Bob is attacked, we think Hopper might have a chance to save him. R.I.P. Bob. Again, cue the Obermark. The sad Obermark.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then everyone gets together. And with the Mind Flayer analogy, we now have a means of moving towards an endgame. They throw Will in his shed, disguise it-ish, tie Will up, and question him. Hopper realizes it's Morse code that Will is using, and he tells them to close the gate. But the phone rings. Will recognizes the ring, and here come the demo dogs. But wait, is that now Elle's 80s punk soundtrack I'm hearing? Okay, so before everyone gets together, what do you think is the huge, important deal with this storyline?
I think before everyone gets together, the biggest deal is that is Creepy Will.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Right.
Just him as an entity. Because we see what the Mind Flayer can do when it infects all of those things. One specific person.
Yeah.
Which comes into major play season 3 and major play season 3 and potentially later on as well. So we see how the Mind Flayer essentially can take over a person, and then that person is almost trapped inside.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy. And then also because of that, we have the trickery of the Mind Flayer. So
Yeah.
we have this intelligence that's going on. So it's not just something that's vines growing and feeding and demo dogs that are just running around and doing their, exactly. It's not a mindless growing. It has a plan. It has feelings. It has emotions.
It has communication skills.
It has communication. Yeah. And it's very much a lot closer to human than we ever thought before.
So fascinating. And such huge implications for season 5. We know Vecna is an actual human, but we still don't know a lot about the Mind Flayer, because in that last scene in season 4, which we'll talk about a lot, there's that does Vecna just use the Mind Flayer? Is it just a tool? Or is it its own, is it its own intelligence? And I think this Creepy Will means it's its own intelligence. Yeah. So Will being this creepy and also being inside is really interesting to me. Next episode, we're going to talk about Dart and Dustin a little bit more, and I'll have more to say in terms of what implications that means for the rest of the creatures, in terms of, are they infected or are they actual literal children or creations of the Mind Hive? But we'll see. We'll see. It was really cool to see Will still in there, but that the Mind Flayer can kind of take him over whenever he wants. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I also think the other main part is that this is where all the stakes are really high for a long time in this episode series. And that's really good. That sequence of being inside Hawkins' lab is ridiculously good.
It is, as I kind of said in my story recap, it is one of the most anxiety-inducing, even though you know exactly what happens after a rewatch.
Yeah.
Rewatching it, I was still so high anxiety, anxious, watching every moment. How many steps can he take? Can he make it into the room? Is the demo dog going to find him? Is it going to break down the door? Oh no, he left the gun behind. All of those moments just really get you right in the gut as you're watching. And those stakes are so high because if Bob doesn't make it down there, none of them get out. If he doesn't make it back up, that has implications for the rest of the people and who he's interacted with. Dr. Sam staying behind.
I know. So kind and so good.
Oh.
I have this marked down as my best sequence of the show thus far. Better than anything that we got in season 1. What are your thoughts about that?
I think I'd agree. I can't think of a full I can think of maybe some small moments or iconic character lines or imagery that I would maybe put higher.
Yeah.
But in terms of an actual full sequence or full scene, I think that this is the best one. Even when I hadn't started rewatching, this sequence is what I always think of when I think of Stranger Things.
Oh, me too.
So this and then a couple of sequences later on in the show, but this is definitely in the top 3 of things that I picture.
The finale sequence of season 1, where you got the mix of Hopper and his kid dying with Will, is really a really good sequence that is emotional. But I think because the stakes are so high for so many characters, and we've only grown to love them even more with an additional season, I think this one, it's just so tight too. It's just so good. And then when everybody gets together, what do you think is the big impact here? I think it's the same thing, right? It's the mind flare and Will still being alive inside.
Right.
With the Morse code.
I think it's mainly that. And also, we get another moment of them all working together for a common goal. Yeah. Which, again, in kind of penultimate episode fashion, we get that moment in last season. We get it when they all come together to make the salt bath for Elle to go go into, and they're all in the gym. And then here they're all in the shed and they're all trying to get one specific thing accomplished. Yeah. So I think that from a character development standpoint, that is the key part of when they all come together. It's that not only are they all physically in the same place, but they're also all working towards one specific goal. And it's nice to see them all overlap and interact, because we do get so many of these separate little storylines throughout that it is nice when they all come together.
Totally.
And are all on the same page.
Totally. Keep your finger on the pause button and rewind that tape. It's time for the prestige category. For what did we notice on this watch through? Okay, what is the function of the pulsating bubotuber pus thing in the upside down vine that Hopper's in? Because it just spits at him.
The one that spits the spores?
Yeah.
I think it's just to...
It's pollinating?
Pollinate and infect, and it's just spreading the spores out. I have to imagine that it's close to pollination, where they'll touch down and then more will grow.
Okay, fine. I just it's just so convenient that it looks at him and it's like, and he's like, fine.
It is a very convenient thing, but so was having a Demogorgon come straight through a paw in a wall. So
that's so true. Okay, just to be clear, the vines are definitely part of the hive mind, and we think the Mind Flayer or Vecna controls the vines too.
Yes, but I think it's because they're not an intelligent thing.
Yeah.
So I think that the vines operate more on kind of an autopilot.
Oh, okay, like a defense system.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So I'm thinking we said bubotuber, and now I'm going to bring in Devil's Snare, where a person touches it, and then it's natural instinct, a Venus flytrap, if you will.
Yeah, a real plant,
a real example.
We can bring in real life. It's not just fandoms and fandom schmandom.
What? We know real things too, you guys. a Venus flytrap, it isn't thinking, oh, I'm going to catch this fly.
Right.
A fly touches it, and its natural instinct is to snap
To close
shut.
up, yeah.
So I think it's a similar situation with the vines, is
Yeah.
that they're essentially just there, and when it senses through feeling something there that's not supposed to be there, it's supposed to grab, absorb, feed, whatever the case may be.
I gotta say, I'm really happy that there aren't Venus flytraps type things in the Stranger Things world. I'm very glad that we've never gotten into the swallowing things whole horror like Pirates of the Caribbean or even Arkham, the Arkham games. When Poison Ivy takes over at one point, the plants start eating people, and there's a whole man that you can rescue from it. It's terrible. Okay, really big question for you, Sierra. Does Dustin play hockey?
He might.
It seems like it. He's got goalie gear, and he has a sweet little slap shot there.
Yeah, I would have to imagine. I'm not sure what the general population of Indiana do for sports. We've only seen basketball. So
yeah,
I would have to imagine they've got a hockey team as well. We just don't often see them doing things. Also, potentially, he used to play and then got into nerd stuff and stopped playing. But I can see Dustin doing both as well.
Also, I'm going to say this very quickly. I don't blame Dart for eating Muse. I blame Dustin for putting Muse in that position. Because Dart is just doing what an animal does, which is grows big and needs to eat a lot of things. I feel a lot for Dart when Dustin bursts out of there and slaps him into the basement.
I do too.
Because he gets scared and starts to scamper, and that's his owner. Like, he has, we know he has little bit of feelings. We see this in the finale. He has little bit of feelings for Dustin. He has a connection. And that's, I know, listen, I understand for all the people that are being like, wow, what a stupid person Sam's being right now. I get that he's like, could turn into a bear, and Dustin has no idea if he's going to hurt him or not or anything like that. But it's just really heartbreaking to see him be so scared and turn around.
It is. I am right there with you. I do find it very upsetting. Obviously, we know what he can become, and so it's hard to fully empathize. However, at this moment, he's just a small animal in a weird situation, not in his home.
Yeah.
And the only person that he's really known is Scary.
Yeah. I mean, it turns out he probably could have just lured him down there with, not meat, but Three Musketeers.
Something. Yeah.
Ugh. Anyways.
Bummer. So, on to another character that has I have a little confusion over this. Yeah. So, Billy is mad at Max and at life, and because his dad married Max's mom and they had to move, which are two separate things, because later we find out that they became a family back when Billy had to have been maybe 11 or so. And so I have so many questions. Why couldn't he have stayed with his mom? We find out later that the mom kind of left, but still, why couldn't the mom have taken him? He's clearly old enough to emancipate himself by now. Why couldn't he do this? And then also, why is he blaming Max for all of this? Because his dad is the horrible one. It's not like Max came along with an abusive parent.
Right.
And that I would maybe understand a little bit more. And if he had the nice, sweet mom, and then here comes this girl who has this abusive dad. But his dad is the one that's horrible, and Max and Max's mom are just dragged into this situation just as much as Billy is. So I don't fully understand his specific disdain for Max and hatred of her and everything that she stands for.
I think it's classical, like, blame avoidance for the thing that's real and blame assigning for something that's easy to control. Because he can control Max much easier. then he can control
True.
anything else. So I think it's simply down to that factor. Which is
That's
unfortunate.
so rough. Yeah.
All right, so this was an interesting thought for me. As Lucas is telling Max everything, I'm sitting there going, I don't think this is just because of a crush. I think he recognizes something deeper. But what are your thoughts? Why does Lucas tell Max everything?
I think he somehow knows she's going to be helpful, because I do think there is something deeper there. Maybe it's just because he is happy that there's somebody else who's interested in this whole situation, and that they can potentially bring somebody else in and explain a little bit more of what's going on, and it's not so tied into, the 10 people who are involved. But also, I just don't see him fully acting on just a crush to tell her. He's got to have, because, Dustin has a crush on her too, but he's not all gung-ho to tell her about it. So I feel like Lucas is picking up on maybe her continued interest is really showing that she could be an asset to them.
Yeah, totally. I think so. Also, last thing on episode 5, I just think it's funny that Steve's going back to ask for Nancy's forgiveness and to try and get back together. It's not a detail that I'd noticed on other rewatches.
Yeah.
It's not something that I never remembered, that he actually tries to go back after she's like, I don't love you.
Yeah.
This is all BS. But he does, and I think that's just so funny, but that's why Dustin finds him.
Right.
So good. But moving on to a more serious note on episode 6, I just gotta say, the, horrors Grey's Anatomy stuff is so good with Will in the hospital.
Oof.
And when they're like,
oh my gosh,
where does it burn? And Will's actor is just phenomenal in these scenes
so
of
fantastic.
escalating, and I don't ever tire of it, right? The ramps up into screams and this horror and everything is just so good. But when he screams everywhere, it is chilling and harrowing.
Yes, it is. It's one of those moments that really just blow you away for a moment.
Yeah.
You kind of just have to sit with that moment and almost wish it didn't cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it needs to cut because you need a little bit of relief
Tension
from what
relief?
just
Yeah.
happened. Exactly. So crazy. And I just, another thing, I keep going back to Max and Billy because they are honestly fascinating to me.
They're great.
But where are their parents? We are now 6 episodes in, and they have yet to make an appearance, a mention, hey, I have to get you back because Dad said so, anything at all. We know nothing about them. We find out, but we know nothing about them up to this point, and just, where have they been?
Right.
They just go on a trip and just leave these kids alone?
Right.
Or, I mean, I get it. Like, Billy's old enough to babysit Max for long stretches of time.
Boy, does he get annoyed by that. I've been watching her all week.
Exactly. But where have they been?
Yeah. It's a good question.
Shoddy parenting.
Shoddy parenting, indeed. Speaking of, well, not parenting, but shoddy adults with kids.
Yes.
Why is Murray getting minors drunk?
Because it's the 80s. That's the only answer I have.
I hope that everybody that lived in the 80s just went, yep, she nailed it. She got it. That's why. It's the 80s. He's a fascinating character, and I think from a story standpoint, it's quite, entertaining that they're drinking vodka, and, Nancy can handle it, and Jonathan can't at all, and they're kind of showing the difference between their maturities as well, and then we've already seen them drinking alcohol, but, Murray just, straight up pouring 2 minors vodka is crazy to me. When he knows so much, he's gotta know their ages.
In my head, though, I really do think that Murray just doesn't interact with non-adults and barely interacts with adults. And so he's just like, well, people came to my house. What do? I offer them a drink. What do I have? I have vodka.
Those commie bastards, I think is what he says, really know how to make a It's some sort of thing. A spirit.
Yeah.
A spirit, that was it.
A spirit,
A
yeah.
spirit, yeah. It's so funny. We'll get more to Murray. I have a lot of him coming up in the episode. So episode 6, great, awesome. Episode 7, which we talked nothing about 11's storyline, which is the 4th storyline throughout all of these episodes.
Right.
But in all honesty, why is it that I, and many, do not like 11's Chicago storyline?
I think the main reason is because it doesn't seem to really have an impact on anything else going forward.
Right?
It just happens and then it's done.
Yep.
We barely learn any new information. The only new information that we kind of learn is that her mom tried to break her out. There's a rainbow room and there's more kids out there who may potentially still be alive.
Yeah. And Dr. Brenner's still alive.
And Dr. Brenner's
That's like
still
the one
alive,
actual
yes.
piece of like important moving forward in the story until we get to Vecna
Exactly.
and all the different kids. But like
Right.
it really doesn't seem to impact, it impacts like soft parts of the story, right? Dr. Brenner's alive. That's not doing anything with this particular season. There were other kids. Okay, that's like world building, but not impact to the actual storyline. So that's frustrating. Mm-hmm. But also, I think part of it is that the attempt to do 80s punk is completely oversaturated. So, you know, like people who are taking photos as beginner photographers, they get into the editing studio and they're like, wow, look, I can ratchet up the colors. Mm-hmm. Look how pretty this photo is suddenly. And so you see a lot of like beginner photography is saturation without the eye for what's required of high saturation. So you just get like really impossible color. And that's to me is what this feels like for the punk scene is like, all right, I like Callie. I think she's an interesting character. And then her like group of friends we're like teetering into comic book in a way that doesn't sit with Stranger Things. Because, like, okay, comic book villains like the Joker work with brooding Batman because they're constantly there, but they fit with Batman's whole sort of vibe. Versus this is like, I've got a switchblade and I'm gonna cut off your locks, honey. And now I'm covered with spiders and I'm jittery and I'm doing all this stuff. But, like, you never get to know any of the characters and they all seem rather kind of stock. Like, they really do feel like people from Joker's gang.
Yeah.
In a way that I'm just like, what is happening? And that oversaturation, I think, really kills that story for me. Because otherwise, there are some interesting moments.
Yeah, there are some interesting moments. I really do think it's the oversaturation, but also just that there's no follow through. All of the information that we gather could have been weaved into any number of other storylines.
Also, like,
we didn't need her leaving, going and finding this new look and blah, blah,
and
blah.
Learning the word bitchin'.
Yeah.
And also,
unnecessary.
It's okay, so she saves the guy, but we already kind of know that she's a good person, but I think this might have been an overcorrection from she smashed everybody's brains in the finale of season 1, which show that she has humanity in her, which is like, okay, cool, I'm glad she does, but I feel like we knew that about her character without having to save the one dude. But also, if you are juxtaposing those two positions, it almost feels a little unearned. To like, suddenly you've got kids, and the kids are the things that saved him. And then
I think that it's not necessarily that it's the kids that save him, but I almost feel like she sees herself and Callie as the kids.
Oh, interesting.
And that while the dad may have done something terrible, the kids don't deserve to suffer because of it. And so she had her real mom taken away from her. She had Papa, who was not a nice man, and therefore she and Callie suffered. And if they were to kill these girls' dad, then they would suffer.
Yeah,
I read it as that way of her seeing herself in them, and that's why she doesn't want to go through with this, because she doesn't want to ruin their lives.
So I feel like the reason why I say there's kind of this oxymoronic feature going on where it's like it's both feels unearned and it feels like we kind of already know is that in the show she's been completely empathetic the entire time. What we don't know is that in a moment of high tension, would she kill or not kill? But this feels like it's not quite the right answer to season 1's brain smashing, because she's not actually in a threat in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Like, she is the threat. She's not being threatened. And
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
okay, so we've answered this humanity question, kind of, but not really. And then when they are threats, it's Callie the one that saves everybody by making them all invisible and then raising a big giant wall in front of everybody as well. So, I don't know, it's all of those reasons put together. It just is a really uninteresting storyline, and it's almost a completely different feel. The way they shoot it.
It is very different.
The costuming, and I know that's part of the point, is to give her a sense of ownership. And she chooses to come back to Hawkins. Cool. I just wish it had been done in a more compelling way.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only other potential thing that we can get through this, and only through this type of storyline, is seeing the juxtaposition of how she has ended up and how Callie has ended up, and how she could have become this very bitter person who goes and just murders for revenge.
Yeah.
And instead, she has slightly more noble reasons for murdering.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I guess is also interesting, but I think it just leaves us with so many more questions than answers.
Yeah.
For example, Callie and Elle feel that something was missing and now they're one again. Why? Why? Is there something that specifically connected the two of them? Is this something that Dr. Brenner created in them?
Right.
Is this just, I forgot how much you used to mean to me type of a thing?
But it's never answered.
Shouldn't they still feel like part of them is missing due to the fact that 1 through 7, 9, and 10 are also still not around them? I mean, if you're thinking that all of the kids have this sort of connection with each other, shouldn't they also still feel like they're missing other parts of them? It really just was very confusing to me.
Also, speaking of the kids, this is a pedantic question, but do you think Dr. Brenner always tattooed 3 numbers on the Special Powers children? Is that like branding best practice? Or do you think once they got to number 10, they were like, dang it, we've got to go back and add another 0 in front of all the numbers? Because she's 008.
Right.
And then 11 is 011, but I'm like, wouldn't you just tattoo 1? Like, why are we tattooing 3 numbers on them? Are you thinking you're going to get to 999?
I mean, potentially, or at least just 100. If he's thinking potentially he could end up with 100 essentially test subjects.
Yeah, maybe. It just seems weird.
Someone in science,
Answer
let us know
yeah.
if test subjects.
Or in cattle,
how many
I guess.
numbers do you go into?
If you're a cattle rancher.
That too. Anything that requires numbering of individuals or specimens or anything like that. The other thing that I think that we do get from this is there's some new progressions in 11's powers. So instead of being able to find Callie, she dreams about where to find her. Another thing that also doesn't make sense, and I do not believe we ever see again.
No.
So she's not able to find her through her normal way, but then she dreams that she finds her, and that doesn't fully make... Is this connected to the why they feel like they were missing and now they're whole again? Is part of them calling out to each other? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make sense at all. I couldn't figure out if this was a progression or if this is something we haven't seen, but then we never see it again, so it's not really answered, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, from a world-building perspective on her powers, this is one of those moments where this reads to me as a script working area that was probably sussed out a bunch of different ways. It just has that feel to it. And obviously that's speculation. Like, I don't know for sure, but it feels like they were like, okay, she's not going to be able to find her for this reason and this reason and this reason. But then they couldn't really come up with another better way. And then when they did, it feels a bit contrived just to get her up there. And then it's never fully explained in a way that feels satisfying to me anyways.
Yeah.
So, weird episode all around. I can see the bullet points. We want her to choose to go back to Hawkins. We want her to train a bit more with somebody else. This is her Yoda situation. We want her to know that Dr. Brenner's still alive. We want her to make a decision for good so that we kind of clean up what we did in episode 1. All understandable. If I was a critic who'd watched the episode before, I would put rewrite. Which is harsh. And I'm not a TV writer, but that's my note on that episode, which is I think you need to redo the way that this goes. It's the way I feel about Attack of the Clones, right? Is all the big bullet points I like, rewrite for strengthening your movie.
Yeah. Episode
8 starts with Will freaking out because he's creepy Will, and Mike is going, oh my gosh, he tricked us, it's a trap, right? With this little, like, Princess Leia reference. It's a trap! And Will just, you're lying! Over and over and over again, just this little kid scream with the voice breaking and all this stuff. It's just an incredible way to start off a hugely compelling sequence in the Hawkins lab. That's it, that's the observation.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Okay,
no
good.
Notes.
Thanks.
Absolutely no notes because it is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is so much. There is so much that is given to this episode just by starting out with that.
For real. And then, okay, do we slightly excuse Billy's behavior, minus the racism, so not including the racism, because of how awful his dad is? So just to recap to everybody.
I don't know that it's excused.
Dad comes in, is immediately the energy of a dangerous man. You're like, this guy murders for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he's quietly angry, and Billy, we can see, is internally struggling, and he lashes out. Well, if you guys weren't 3 hours late, blah, 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 blah. But it's an entirely different anger than what he does with Max. He's powerless.
Yeah.
And then this guy, his dad, takes him and shoves him against the wall and calls whoever he's going to date a whore.
Mm-hmm.
And then, which actually I think is a bit over the top for the character. I think it reads as a little too melodramatic, but does do that, and then makes him say "yes, sir" louder for everybody to hear. We see actually Billy might be a better person than his dad. So now again, Billy's 17 years old. He's a child. He's a literal child, even though the actor's definitely not.
No,
but what do you think?
Not that much older, but he is. So I have a hard time with excusing bullies and explaining bullies.
Mm-hmm.
So it explains why he is the way he is, why he lashes out the way that he does, why he's angry at the world around him, why he acts out with fear and with anger. And most often, the people who feel the most fear need to combat that somehow. And so he is then turning that around into, well, I'm so afraid I will make other people fear me. Therefore, I will be powerful because my dad has power over me. So I have to have power over somebody else. So it explains it. I don't think that it excuses it, because I think that there are ways to still be a better person despite the situations that you're in. However, he is still a child, and most children do not have the capacity to figure that out.
Yeah,
yet.
Totally.
So it's hard. If he was a number of years down the road and removed from that situation, I would say absolutely not. It does not excuse his behavior, given that he is still in a dangerous situation on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I can give him slightly more of a pass. And as we see a little bit more of Billy's storyline come to light later on, we can have a little bit more grace with Billy.
That's the word. I think that's the word for me. It's not grace, pass, it's grace. Because I like you're saying, I can't excuse it. It's obviously more explained. I don't give him a pass, but I give him a little bit of understanding, grace, and a little bit more empathy because of it. And I think it's a really effective tool in this last episode to do that.
Yeah. It always really kills me when this moment comes around between Billy and his dad, because you see the stepmom just shrinking into the background with You know she's not going to stand up for Billy. You know that if Billy is not the target, she probably is.
Yeah.
You know that this whole situation is super messed up, and probably I'm having an epiphany right now. Billy is probably mad at Max because he takes the brunt of it, so she doesn't get any of it.
Yeah, certainly.
He takes all of the danger and hides her from it.
Yeah.
And she probably doesn't even realize how much he's protecting her, and so he's resentful.
Which is one of the reasons why he's the one that's like, you were late, because he's the one who gets in trouble for being late.
Exactly.
With his dad, not her.
Yeah. Where is your sister? Where is your sister?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're supposed to be watching her. Well, it's not his fault that she snuck out through the window.
Right.
How is he supposed to know where she is?
Yeah.
When she's actively defying what she's supposed to be doing, and he's going to get in trouble for it, and he's going to get potentially, beaten.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, certainly.
Given the natural reaction for his dad is to walk in and immediately physically
put hands
assault
on him.
his child, there's definitely more going on than just that. That's the tame version.
Certainly.
So, wow. Okay.
There we go. We've answered the whole universe.
I feel like I feel like I need to rewatch all of Billy now with that in mind.
Yeah. Well, season 3, here we go.
Yes. So a couple of quicker things that I noticed on this go around. Max is the only one who would survive a horror movie.
Yeah.
With the quote, "Why are you headed towards the sound?" Logic, my friend, logic. I love it. I love it.
Speaking of love, I love that when Hopper and company escape Hawkins' lab, they have no questions as to why Jonathan and Nancy are there or why Steve and the babies are there. They're just like, all right, come on, guys, let's go.
Everybody pile in. We're used to all meeting up at a random location. Let's go.
No questions.
Yes. A more serious note. How does Will / the Mind Flayer know where the phone is ringing? And how can they hear it? They're not in the house. And they even point out, like, it could be any phone.
Okay, so
Joyce has replaced the phone
I'm aware.
at least 2 times. Yeah. So you can't even say it's the same ring he's been hearing his whole life.
That's true.
Because last year, she got multiple different phones because they kept shorting out when she was trying to talk to Will.
So, with all that being said, first of all, the phone is super loud. They can definitely hear it in the thing. Because if you remember those landline days, they are a shrill, especially those ones. Because like you and I grew up a little bit in the 90s. We still had some of the 80 technologies in our house. And like those phones are super loud. That being said, you still hear that. You hear that phone ring a lot, all the time, multiple times a day. Again, there's no texting. So that's a sound that Will is looking forward to all the time because he's out of range. His house is out of range from the radio signals. So everybody has to call. And so that's a sound that he's looking forward to. And so I think because the Mind Flayer's in his head looking for any information, Will recognizes even it on the briefest glimpse. He's going to recognize that. Because you think about, people when they would move with landlines used to talk about the nostalgia of like, man, I really wish the way my old phone sounded. And even though, yes, it's been a year and Joyce has replaced it multiple times, that's still something for a kid who's like, what, they're in 8th grade, so he's 13, 14. A year is still an eternity. So, yeah, I think that's why.
I still find it fishy. Because how many other people have the same phone? Come on. There's not that many phones.
But also, I will say, they're in the shed that he got captured in, which I know they made it look very different. But I, too, feel like if I had been captured and sent to an alternate dimension, would know, not to make a pun on the word dimension, but I would know the dimensions and where the beams of the shed are, or where the support columns of the shed are, and he's tied to one of them, and I just feel like we'll just put it all together at that point. He's been in that shed before, when that phone rings, and he's heard it, and he's had to go out to go find the phone from the shed, so the distance, the level of volume that is at, plus the dimensions of everything, with the support beams, all of it put together, I think you got an okay explanation. Not a perfect one, but an okay explanation.
I still don't love it. but I will acknowledge that there are some good points.
Speaking of things you don't love.
Speaking of things I don't love, this very, very, again, pedantic thing. Why is one of Elle's pant legs tucked into her sock?
People who are old tell us. What was it like in the 80s?
Did you always specifically tuck one pant leg into your sock? Because it bothered me so much when they did that pan and there was just one pant leg in the sock. And it's not even the whole pant leg. It's just part of it. And it's not like her socks are that interesting. If she had really interesting socks, I could maybe see it because I have some interesting socks and I want to show them off. But no, they're just socks.
Yeah.
They're just socks.
Just socks.
You don't always have to face down a horde of angry soldiers by yourself. Buckle up, Schmisseners, because it's time for our Sansa is Smarter Than Jon category for most important character moment in this set of episodes. I have two.
Yeah.
One is Dr. Sam prioritizing Will over burning the vines.
That's a good moment.
I think that is a huge character development for him from what we've seen of him, because he seems very detached, and this is the first time we really see him actually care about somebody.
Yeah, certainly.
And we do see more. We do see more Dr. Sam. The second one is 11 sparing the man because of the kids.
Yeah.
As annoying as that whole storyline may be, I do think it is an important character moment for 11 to realize that this is not the path that she wants to go down.
I think because of what we were talking about earlier about that moment feeling maybe not so earned and also kind of predictable, that one takes less of precedence over the amount of character work and heavy lifting. The Sam prioritizing Will over burning the vines. It does. Because, like you said, the Dr. Sam seems interesting, and then he's kind of playing both sides of the field a little bit there, and then we see that he actually really deeply cares about Will, and this allows us to believe later that he's going to stay behind and help Bob, which is awesome and really great characterization. I will also say, so I would choose that one of your two. I will also say Steve's character moment where he talks about romance with Dustin and describes how to do the hair really does a lot of character development for Steve as well, who's already been great, but it's an entire transformation into the Steve that we know and love today.
Yeah.
And so that one's mine. And I think I'm going to take this one. I think I'm going to bring it to my side. Because Steve is cool, and he's not such a bully, and he's great with Nancy, but Steve and Dustin, and the way that Steve acts, and what eventually leads to Nancy kind of catching eyes for him again, happens in that scene. Yeah,
so I have Steve in another category. Okay. For a very similar reason, which is why I didn't put him here for that specific moment. But I do think Steve is pretty important, and his character development is great here.
It's such an important character moment, though.
Yeah, this is true.
I don't know. You want to call it a push? We tie?
Okay, I will call it a tie this time. I think this is our first tie.
Yeah, but I totally agree with Sam. It's a huge moment. It's a really huge moment. Okay, you may have just lost a hand, Sierra, to our tie, which means I've also lost one. Oh, no! But listen up. It's the I am your father. Category 4, most iconic character moment.
Here is my Steve moment. Him walking out, they're going, what are you doing? Expanding the menu. And then he lures the Demogorgon
with him
on his own.
Yeah.
I think this is the key moment because this is him protecting the kids. With the bat, starts his journey as Dad Steve. And, Steve and the kids, Dad Steve.
Statty.
All of those things. Daddy-o, Stevie-o. And I think that is the most iconic. The second one that I have for this, though, I do think wins. Purely because it is what I think of when I think of this season, when I think of Stranger Things, which is Bob almost making it out and getting taken down at the last second. Cue me crying for days and days.
Could not nod my head any harder than what I just did. Listen, the expanding the menu is really good. It's not one that I think about often in terms of this season.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great character moment, and if you'd put it in character moment, I would have been right there with you. But in terms of iconic scene, doors bursting over, Bob being overrun, Hopper coming to shoot the one that's on him, then the other door bursting open, and just being like, the feeling of, oh my god, no, oh my gosh, they're gonna save him, oh my gosh, you guys have to leave him behind. And then the return to him where he's twitching as they consume him is
horrible,
iconic, terrible,
and devastating,
but great.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I think also because when you see someone who is a bigger actor join the cast, you think maybe he's going to stick around for a little longer. You would think.
Samwise Gamgee himself graced your presence.
Everybody, sit down. It's time for our I Am Iron Man most iconic and most important scene category.
Okay, so before you get to your stupid choice. Yeah, I know. I called it stupid. There are so many better options, and they all are from Murray, Jonathan, and Nancy's storyline. So, my first question, are we sure it's not the 1950s music and lines given to Jonathan and Nancy before they decide to hook up? Okay? Let me walk you through this. They have, like, old school music on. We have moved out of the 80s into the 50s where we're splicing between Jonathan and Nancy and who's going to do what. And it's also kind of an Indiana Jones reference because it's the first, it's the first movie there, which is set in the 30s. So, I'm off by 2 decades, but fine. But they have this sort of like, should I go? Should she go? No, we've looked at each other. Good night, I guess. Yeah, good night. Oh, missed it. That was your moment of opportune. No, none of it. Or, are we sure it's not Jonathan finally taking some initiative in his life and being at the door to kiss Nancy, which is surprising, and I'm sure for people interested in men, very attractive to have Jonathan be at the door. Because we think Nancy's sitting there, cross-armed, scowling, holding a pillow between her legs. And then she stands up, and she goes over, and she opens it, and who's there? Jonathan's already there. Also, bonus points to that, because as soon as they kiss, it immediately cuts to Erica making very convincing make-out noises with her action figures, He-Man, and her Barbie just making out. Alright, what was your choice?
Super funny. My choice is Elle moving a train.
Nope. No.
Just no.
It's from episode 7. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I think it's iconic because it's something that she has never done. It's this insane feat, which usually ends up going to Elle because she's the only one who can do insane with telekinesis, feats like this. Yeah. And then also important because it is a development in her powers. Yeah. And having more going on. I have a little bit of a hard time because I really wanted her to, instead of tap into anger, tap into love. But it didn't. Maybe that is just me being so fandom coded that is like.
It's supposed to be the light side. You're giving into the dark side.
Exactly. And us going, but if she gives into love, she thinks about the things that she loves, then it'll be more powerful.
Let the hate flow through you.
Exactly. I'm not sure why that was just on my brain.
Why is she Palpatine?
I've seen this scene before. Yeah. I know. I've seen this scene before. I know that she doesn't, but I still the whole time was like, why is she not doing that?
Well, okay. So, Elle moving the train, in all honesty, it's not like season 7, it's not a disbarred sort of situation, but it's just kind of a level up from a bus.
Yeah.
She flips the van in season 1 and then she moves the train. And I'm like, all right, the training part is interesting. The moving the train is, that's funny. I'm stupid. I just realized that it's a pun. They're training with a train. I'm an idiot. That's fine. Because of it's a pun.
Like in The
we're
Incredibles.
Removing it. Yeah. No, we're done. The Incredibles did it better. I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, I win. Which Nancy Jonathan moment do you want?
Jonathan being at the door.
Yeah, of course. It's so iconic.
As someone who is invested in their relationship and also is someone interested in men, and if the man was at the door in that moment, yes, this is a very swoon-worthy moment.
Yeah,
I'm just going to put it out.
Good on him. Excellent. Well done. Crack open an encyclopedia. It's time for our, as Elijah Wood once said, no, how could we have known category, where we discuss the most important information disseminated to the fandom over these 4 episodes.
Elle's powers are developing. She's dreaming of locations.
Somehow.
She's moving trains.
Yep.
She's killing demodogs with one fell swoop.
True.
Yeah. So things are increasing for her. Her powers are not stagnant, I guess, is the important moment here.
And the other one is what we talked about at length with Creepy Well.
Yeah.
The Mind Flayer has, like even more than we were talking about last episode, just it keeps developing our understanding of what it's able to do from a strategy standpoint. And it's especially key, as you were saying, for season 3.
Yes. Keep your horses safe. It's the I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse category of best lines.
Okay, there's an honorable mention for Mike's, and I know, I hate Mike, but it's an honorable mention for Mike line, because he does it so well. There's a shout out to Empire Strikes Back, and it's when Mike says, "It's a trap! It's a trap!" And he's shouting it, and they take one of the takes, or as I should say, one of the takes that they choose to put in the episode is his voice cracking in a very similar way to Carrie Fisher's in Empire Strikes Back when she's telling Luke it's a trap. And it's just really awesome. And I just love the fact that it's an Empire Strikes Back moment. It's not an Admiral Akbar moment. It's Leia's moment that they're shouting out.
I love, if you need to reach me again, don't.
I love Murray. But I will raise you 2 more Murray lines. So you're going to take Nancy, or you're going to take Jonathan, and I'll take Murray.
Okay.
Steve. We like Steve.
Yes.
But we don't love Steve.
So good.
It's so good. Second line reading. So, Jonathan, how was the pullout?
Sorry?
The sofa?
Yeah, it was good.
I bet. He drops his eggs off his fork immediately. Oops. But we don't love Steve or oops, I think are my choices on the lines.
So funny.
Which one do you got?
So
if you had to pick
hilarious.
one of any of those things, what are you going with?
Oh my gosh. But we don't love Steve.
I think that's it. But we do, because it's just so funny. He lines it up with, we like Steve. She's like, yes, exactly, you get it. And he goes, but we don't love Steve.
Oh, Lord almighty.
Dust off that card deck and get ready to shuffle. It's our Joker category for who is the MVP of these episodes. All right. I've got another stupid one for you that I'm pretty sure we're going to talk ourselves into, because every time I've been like, in life, not just on our podcast, because we haven't done it this much, but every time I'm like, pound for pound, I think it's this person, we go with that person. So I'll get to him last. Is it Will, because he breaks through the Morse code, right? He is able to circumvent the Mind Flayer in some way, shape, or form. He's able to break through. He Morse codes them. He tells them what to do. He gets them the end game. Or is it Bob for getting everybody out safely? Or, pound for pound, for the amount of screen time that he's got, is it the only Murray? Because let me walk you through.
As much as I would...
Wait, pound for pound means I have to walk you through it. Because that's what I do every single time I say pound for pound.
Yes.
All right, so he shows up in Hawkins. He's almost right. Boom. Flash forward to these set of episodes. They go up to him. He's a journalist. He's got connections. He knows who to send things to. He comes in and immediately he's like, I'll figure it out. And then he swallows his pride and his ego He listens to Jonathan and Nancy. He knows exactly the right strategy to actually make change, and not to spoil next episode, but that change actually works. He gets the government on the side of Nancy and Jonathan because of his watered down idea. And with that, he then spurs along this love tension that we've been feeling for forever, finally springing forth the Jonathan-Nancy connection that we've all been wanting, and then leaves with, of all of our best lines, we had one Mike one, and then the rest were all Murray. And that's 4 episodes, and he's only in 1.
That is just because he's hilarious.
Yes.
As much as I would love to talk myself into Murray.
Yeah.
I am going to give it to Bob.
Yeah, same.
And it's not just because, but it's not just because he gets them all out safely. He also figures out that the drawings are vines, figures out that it's the map of Hawkins, figures out where Hop is able to direct them properly. All of that, everything that he does, Bob Newby, superhero, all the way through to getting them all out safely.
Yeah. Okay, I also think it's Bob. I think he's the absolute MVP. Maybe even of the whole season.
The whole series?
Maybe. That'd be crazy if we did that. The character that appears and dies in season 2.
Insane.
Yeah, I think it's Bob, certainly. For all the reasons you named.
It's Bob. 100%.
Bob.
Clean your evil lair.
Ugh.
And get ready for our I was a turkey all along category for what is the biggest takeaway viewers should leave with in preparation for season 5.
Yeah, okay, so it's pretty quick, y'all. Mind Flayer is a hive mind that can control all demo things and anyone that has been infected by it.
It's also extremely strategic and smart and has an omniscient sense of direction and is very duplicitous. It will use any and all means for victory.
And Will can break through it.
Yep.
Today's public service announcement is brought to you by the Bob Newby Trust, which had no money in it except for this one public service announcement. Learn basic, you mindless heathens. It may save your life. It's not upside down matter that matters. It's technology that's coming for us all. In 40 years, AI will be ruining the minds of high schoolers, making them zombies instead of fighting upside down zombies. Learn to code with a passion for good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, listener schmisseners, for listening to this episode of Fandom Schmandom. If you would like to discuss this episode or any other episode we've done, please hit us up on our social media channels. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Fandom Schmandom Pod and on X at Fandom_Schmandom.
Please don't forget to rate and review us if you like the episode. It really helps with the algorithm placing us in front of other like-minded schmissioners out there. And with that, we're out, y'all.
Don't forget to tip your psychiatrist.
And fare thee well.
Fandom Schmandom was created by Sam Williams and Sierra Obermark. The show is produced by Aurelia Lieb. The editor is Brittany Fisher. The music is by Jeremiah Alves.
And 11 decides to show Mousy.
Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy. And forces Callie to do the same, throwing her gun out the window as the cops arrive. I went French at the end. What happened to me? Okay, let's redo that sentence.
Quick, he's switching accents.
Quick, he's switching accents. What is he, Carrie Fisher?
The lab is under attack and the group puts Will out, knocks him out. Really, he's out, guys. Mike, having noticed that as a spy, he Find your donut holes. It's time for our Knives Out category where we suss out what 3 storylines are the most vital to pay attention to.
What's happening there? Why does it say
what is happening?
Suss?
Suss out because I think I wrote in, is it supposed to be suss out?
Oh no, I like sooth. Sleuth.
Okay.
Sleuth. It's supposed to be sleuth. It's not supposed
We've
to
been
be
saying
either of those
sooth,
two
which
words.
is not a word at all. We've said that for like
No, I mean
6
there
episodes now.
are soothsayers, but it's supposed to be
I
sleuth.
know. Sleuth.
Dear listener schmishners, if you're hearing this at the end of the episode, it's made it into our gag section. We would like to put out a formal apology for the fact that for the first 4 episodes, I have no idea how many we've done, we've been saying sooth instead of either sus or sleuth, which is supposed
We're
to be
just
sleuth.
putting them together.
So, our apologies or our non-apologies, whichever one you'd like. The Mind Flayer uses Will to lure the burners to hop. Nope, I can't say lure like that. That's insane. to lure with his goony
And
butt.
you killed him. And you killed him.
Yeah, for real. Goonie butt is a reference to Goonies, y'all. Not anything else. Brittany, just take out my audio track on that. Just have Sierra. Don't have Goonie butt in there. I don't need trouble.
Nope.
Sorry, you sunk so low in your chair that I was like, why is Sierra suddenly Gimli? Okay, anyways. Today's public service announcement is brought to you by the late Bob Newhart. No. What's...
Newbie.
Bob Newhart. That's the dad from Elf.